What is up, true believers? It's Mason here with Comics and Crosses, where we discuss the eternal truths behind our modern mythology. And today we are talking Star Wars again because a really cool little show, Tales of the Jedi, was recently released on Disney+. Hopefully a lot of you gotten to see it by now. What I wanted to talk about in terms of this little show, which is a series of shorts created by Dave Filoni, kind of in the vein of Clone Wars and Rebels, is that, this series kind of highlights what I talked about in my last video about the secret sauce of Star Wars, that spiritual journey that people can relate to and want to, that feel kind of called to join into, or that they're already a part of, that kind of intimate yet grand vision that Star Wars creates. This show does something that Dave Filoni does really great, which is it brings up some challenges to that journey, challenges to the purity of the Force, and I think it does it in a really cool way, and I think it really reflects some of the actual issues that Christianity faces in real-world settings in history and today. Okay, so first off, just to give you an overview, an idea about this show, if you have not watched it yet, and I may drop a few spoilers, I'm going to try not to get too crazy with it. We'll see. I'll try to warn you, but let me just tell you about this show. So Star Wars Tales of the Jedi is a really cool Disney Plus exclusive series that features shorts that highlight, in particular, Ahsoka Tano, who is, if you don't know, the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker. Yes, he had a Padawan. He had a younger Jedi that he was training during the time of the Clone Wars. Now, we never got to see her on screen up until The Mandalorian Season 2, where she appeared in the episode called The Jedi, while Din Djarin was looking for somewhere to take Grogu, Baby Yoda, looking for a Jedi to return him to. So we got to encounter her there. But her story actually begins during the prequel era, the Clone Wars with Anakin Skywalker when he was still a Jedi. He trained young Ahsoka, and she is probably, thanks to all of the ongoing animated stories, one of the most well-developed characters in all of Star Wars, if not the most. So, but you have to really dive into the animation because she is a sort of a character that's been really fleshed out by Dave Filoni in Clone Wars, the animated series, and then also in Rebels. And now she's getting her own live action series as played by Rosario Dawson, which we saw in again, The Mandalorian Season 2. So, as I was saying, the show features Ahsoka, who is this great character. She is a Jedi. You get to see some of her origin and a critical moment in her development. And then also, we get to see, surprisingly, Count Dooku. Now, here's a character from the prequel era that we sort of knew very little about, who sort of showed up and was a big bad guy, and then before you knew it, his head was gone. So, whoopsie, and then that was all there was for Count Dooku, who was a former Jedi, and then, but as we saw him in the movies, a Sith Lord. He was the apprentice to Darth Sidious, who was, secretly the Emperor and all that, Chancellor, whatever. Anyhow, if you've only seen the movies, you got to know very little about him, but as these animated series usually do, as created by Dave Filoni, we got to go deeper into who that character was and see stories of him as a Jedi Knight, younger, and having some issues with the way things played out. We actually get to see him with Mace Windu. We get to see him with Qui-Gon Jinn and other characters who we know from the movies. Now, these stories were great. I just will tell you that it shows basically during the prequel era Jedi stories. So that is The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, kind of in that time frame, mainly all around. I was going to say Attack of the Clones, but, kind of Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones time. So episodes 1 and 2. So, which is cool because there's a whole time there that is where there were lots of Jedi, and they were at the kind of height of their power, maybe, or kind of coming to the end of their power, being, a part of the Republic and all that. So, an interesting time, different from the later movies. So now here's what I have to say about this series of shorts and the issues that it highlights that are issues for the Jedi that I think are actually also issues for Christianity, which is interesting. So, number one, an issue that we see in this series, which is really highlighted mainly with Count Dooku's stories. He has a few issues where you kind of get to see him at different phases of his disenchantment with the Jedi Order and with the way things are running. And it's not necessarily driven by a bad thing. It is, you see him having empathy for people that he encounters who are not being taken care of, who are being basically, there are crimes against humanity. They're living without food, and it's because the senator that represents them is not taking care of his area, his region, his sphere of influence, his people. He's letting them starve. He's letting them, live in terrible conditions, and this angers, rightly so. There's a righteous anger that comes over Count Dooku to a point where it boils over in one of these first episodes. There's a problem that happens when I think that is associated with the Jedi Order kind of being linked with the New Republic, and with them having to enforce the rules, being sort of the soldiers of the New Republic. And they claim that they're on their own. They claim that they control themselves. They have their own council. But it's even brought up in the cartoon, in the episode with Count Dooku, in one of them where, somebody makes the claim that, you say you uphold peace, but it's really the law of the Republic that you uphold. And we can see that Dooku kind of feels a certain way about this. That same problem, I would say, exists in Christianity. We can look back historically, and Christianity tends to have a problem whenever it gets into bed with power. Christianity being representative of the kingdom of God is counter to the kingdom of this world. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that in the world, you step over people in order to pursue money. You will give them bad food that will harm their bodies and kill them if it can be mass-produced at a cheaper cost and make more profits for a company, right? People will use and abuse people, let them be destroyed, and hoard all the resources. Like, people do awful things and crimes against people which are made in the image of God and have no remorse, no love for them, no care for their fellow human in the pursuit of their own selfish desires, right? So whereas the kingdom of God says the least of these is the greatest, all right? So that's why Jesus went around caring for the poor and caring for the people who were outcasts in society, or who were told that they did not measure up to society's, even religious society's standards. Now, why do I bring all this up? Because when it comes to the Jedi Order, here they are, keepers of the peace, and yet they are becoming an arm of the Republic and being sort of forced to uphold standards that were made outside and separate from them. Now, I don't know the history of the Jedi Order and how they became in league with the Republic, or how that all worked out exactly. Like, when did this start? But you can see the tension, and rightly so, because we know that at the end of the prequel era, these things really collapse in a bad, bad way. But you can see the tension because the Jedi Order try to say that, hey, we have our own council, we have our own way, we uphold the peace, that is what we are about. And even Dooku says, we protect the people, and that's what the Republic is supposed to do. And maybe that's why they kind of gotten in alignment to begin with, because the Republic was supposed to care for the people, but then you can see corruption and selfishness and all these sorts of things leads to the harming of people And then now the Jedi Order finds himself in a strange place where they must maintain the Republic's status quo, and yet is that really still about order and about the people? Maybe, maybe not. You know, it gets a little muddy, it gets a little murky. And Christianity has had this problem too, where they become the accepted religion of Rome. They go from being literally Christians murdered in the Colosseums for spectacle and entertainment to now this is the official religion of the nation. And you see things like, the Vatican, you see in history areas where countries become Christian nations or Catholic, however they want to call themselves, and then there's a oppressive power that's driving down on people rather than lifting people up. And now it's we all must fall in line and obey. And while obedience is a part of Christianity, it's more so a voluntary obedience that's caused by change of heart. So when you go and start demanding it, it becomes a strange, twisted version of what you're really trying to create. I hope you can see what I'm saying, that it's a strange thing for a Jedi to swing with the full weight of a government. And it's a strange thing for Christianity to swing with the full weight of the government, and swinging with that kind of weight can really crush people. We see Count Dooku having a problem with, and eventually it leads to him diverting from the path, that he was on, no longer becoming a Jedi, which we know from the movies, so not too much of a spoiler. But the other thing that I thought was interesting is in his spiritual journey, which is more of a decline, Count Dooku that is, we see kind of something that we're seeing today in modern Christian history, which is a sense of deconstruction. We see that Dooku has kind of lost faith in the establishment of his religion, in the established Jedi Order. He has lost faith, and he does not trust them, and he believes he must do things his own way. Now, if you are on Facebook at all, and you are a Christian, you will probably have seen people deconstructing their faith lately, especially with an uptick since the 2020 election, or was it 2016? Yes, Trump. Basically, since he came into office, he was a big divisive figure that, a lot of Christians, a lot of younger Christians took exception to that person being hoisted up into office, and as a representative of the supposedly Christian supporting or Christian voicing party of the government. So that was an issue. Lockdowns and all those sorts of things that were culturally happening, and people not being able to attend church led to a lot of deconstruction, led to a lot of reevaluation, which is certainly what we see going on in Count Dooku's mind and in his experience, is a lot of reevaluation and a lot of deciding that maybe the order that I'm a part of is not really even practicing the beliefs that they proclaim. Now, I'm not here to fully talk about deconstruction and all of that's going on, but maybe it's something you've been aware of, maybe it's something you've seen, maybe you've seen people share about deconstructing their faith, but it's something that's definitely a big thing, and it's happening, and it's something that happens. When it happens, it's primarily people stepping out and removing themselves from church, believing that the organized facet of the religion has led to corruption, has led to a perversion of the perhaps ideals of Christ, perhaps ideals of Christianity in general, as it set out to create and set out to do from the start. So, not all that much different from what we see happening within the Jedi Order. So this is something that I thought was poignant, was interesting, and I think that Star Wars is at its best when it's really touching on, as I stated in a previous video, the spiritual journey that one can go on, the different challenges to one's faith in something bigger than themselves, and I think that there's some parallels here, and it being so intimate and yet so grand in scope, in vision, makes Star Wars, really puts it at its best and makes it powerful, makes it poignant, makes it something that I think people will watch and believe in. Even though it's, it's in space, it's in a galaxy far, far away, it's something different, but it's still something powerful. It's still something that's significant. This is not just people fighting with laser swords. There is something greater going on that speaks to our human nature and our souls within us. So pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. What do you think? Did you notice? Do you feel like you care as a fan about the dynamics of the Jedi Order and how they are falling apart, how they are represented in the movies, in the cartoon shows, in this show, Tales of the Jedi? What do you think? Do you agree with me? And do you find any kind of inspiration from it? So let me know in the comment section. Feel free to share this video, and with anybody who loves talking Star Wars, who loves talking kind of deeper imagery and pictures behind content. But I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate the likes and I appreciate the shares on the videos. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I hope to send more great content out to you soon. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Until next time, I will see you. Peace.